How you doing? So in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to create this beautiful golden cinematic look to your images. It's a real easy, simple process and it'll only take you about 5 minutes to do. So I'm going to reset this and show you how I did it. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I'm actually going to come up to the color profile up here and I'm going to select vintage and I'm going to select vintage number 7. That's going to give us a really good starting point for this particular image. I'm going to bring down the amount to around 50, around that area there. That just gives us a really nice base to start from. Okay, I'm going to increase the white balance. I'm going to move that up fairly high to around 25 just to start with. Again, this is just giving us a real good starting point. I'm going to bring this tint down a little bit, just a little bit. There we go. Just take the sting out of that. So I'm going to bring the exposure down just a tiny fraction there, just so we can don't overexpose them highlights too much. But that is part of the image, so I'm not going to bring that down too far. I'm going to add some contrast up to around 12. That's pretty good. And then the highlights, I'm actually going to just push them up a little bit to around there, 48. That's quite good. And I'm going to do the same with the shadows. Just going to lift them ever so slightly. And then I'm going to bring the blacks down to around -20. There we go. That's looking pretty good so far. The next step then is the texture clarity, the dehaze. So I'm going to bring the clarity down just a fraction, and then the dehaze I'm actually going to push that up just to get rid of that haze, and it's around 38. There we go. Okay, so if we just look at that quickly, what we've done, you can see we've changed the structure of the image, we've changed the structure of the light there. That gives us a good starting point to then go and manipulate, and we can do that within the tone curve and the HSL panel. But before that, let's just add some vibrance up to that as well, to about 26, and then just bring the saturation down a little bit to around -10, just to take that glow out of that vibrance there. Okay, so jump into the tone curve then. I'm going to make 3 points, as always, that I do there as a starting point. I'm going to matte the blacks off, so I'm going to bring that up to around there. I'm going to bring this black point just down a bit. There we go. And the midpoint, I'm just going to bring that across to the left. And then I'm just going to lift the whites up ever so slightly. There we go. That looks pretty good. That's given us a little bit more contrast now. So let's go to the red. And again, let's make some 3 points. In fact, I'm going to add another one down here. I'm just going to matte this off as well. I've just put that point down the bottom there, so we're not really pulling that curve up there. I think that's all I've done. I think I may have brought this mid-tone point down a little bit to around there. There we go. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to copy that and put that onto the other 3 channels. So copy channel settings, right click and paste, right click and paste. So we can see what we've done there. You can see there's a little bit of contrast coming back in there. So the majority of this particular preset is done within the color grading, the HSL and the color grading section. So let's jump to the hues. So I'm going to push the red up. I'm going to pull the orange down just a little bit, not too much. I'm going to pull the yellows down, and I'm going to do the same with the green as well. So I think I went to about -26 for that. And the blue, I'm just going to pull that up a little bit. It's about 10. That's good. And then let's jump to the saturation then. Just take a little bit of that red out. And same with the orange. So let's just bring this down to around there. That's good, -16. And then the yellow, I'm going to bring that down a little bit more. So 42 works pretty well. Same with the green, around the same, maybe a little bit more. And the aqua, there's not a lot of aqua in this image, so I'm just going to bring that down a little bit. And the blue, I'm going to bring that down I think there is a lot of blue in there anyway, but let's just bring that down because I think that's looking quite good there. That looks good. So let's go to the luminance. So again, we're just bringing these colors down. We're bringing the brightness down now. So -10, -16, yellow around there, and the green, think around there. That looks good. That's really helped a lot, hasn't it? And then the aqua, not so much because I don't think there's much in there anyway. And the blue, where did I put it? I think it was about 43, 42, around that mark there. And that looks pretty good. Okay, so let's have a look at the before and after of the HSL. You can see what we've done there. We've really muted them colors down now, but they're still present in there. So we've just taken control a little bit more of that. So let's jump over to the color grading then. So let's start with the shadows, and let's just boost up the hue. So I'm going to go, I think it was 224, around there is what I usually work on. Yeah, 224, and saturation, I reckon around 26, I think I've done it at. So there we go, that's good. Let's push the midtones. Let's do around the same, I think. Yeah, about 2228 is quite nice. And then let's just pull that saturation up. And let's keep going. I think I've done to around 50. There we go. That looks good. And then let's do the highlights. And the highlights, we're going to do the opposite now. We're going to come over to the sort of yellow, the yellow section up there. So it's just bordering onto green. So I reckon about there. And the saturation, I'm going to just increase that to about 16. And then what we're going to do is just change the blending. I'm going to push that up to around 63, 64, and just push that balance up as well to around 17. There we go. That's looking pretty good. And I think I might just jump back to the shadows and just boost that luminance up to 30. I think that's what I'd done on the original. So that's looking pretty good. Actually, let's pull that down. I think I'd done 15 on the shadows. So let's pull that down to -15 on the shadows. Let's go to the midtones and push that up to 30. There we go. That's looking better. That's looking good. So then what we're going to do is go to the global. So you might not have used this or don't use this very often, but this is quite nice just to give a nice sort of color cast to your image. So let's get a hue of around 40, and then just saturation around about 28, 29. There we go. That looks good. And then let's just bring the brightness of that down to around -60. That looks good. Maybe a little bit less. There we go. That's looking pretty good. So let's jump to the detail now and then just increase the sharpening of this a little bit. I'm going to move the detail up to 50, and I'm going to mask all the way up to around 90. Push that back up to about 30. There we go. Going to add a little bit of noise reduction. 15. Same with the color. 15. There we go. Now we can add a little vignette to this as well. So let's just add that to around 20. That looks good. And then I think what I would do now, because that's pretty much the actual adjustment made, you can see what that's done, is I would think about the way that this light's coming across. We can just almost create our own sort of sunlight. So let's use the radial filter. Let's drag that out, and then let's just push that up the middle so it's really, really soft. It basically means you can see here that's your feather. Okay, so it's how soft that's going to be. We want that nice and soft. And let's just push that across there, so it's almost like we're mimicking that direction of that sunlight. Make that a bit bigger. There we go. Let's take that overlay off. Let's increase the contrast, and let's increase the white balance as well, just so we mimic that. And what we can do as well is just push them highlights up as well. Now if we look where the actual mask is, some of it is bleeding off into the background, and we don't want that. So click on the subtract, then brush. Make sure your flow and density is high, otherwise you won't actually take the mask. It will take you a long while to paint that in. So all I'm going to do now is just paint around, or take out the areas that I don't want to be affected by that adjustment. So just take your time with it, but we've got auto mask selected over here, so Lightroom will do its job and pretty much work out what we're trying to do and find the edges for us. It should do anyway. Just makes it a bit of a better selection. So there we go. I made the brush a little bit smaller just by changing that size on my keyboard with the brackets keys, and just really take my time going around the edges there and then the side of there. So now what we can do is just get rid of that area there, because I think I don't really need it coming from actually up here, because it's we've got a sort of a light leak anyway, so we're just trying to mimic that sun coming across them. So just press enter for that. There we go. That's just given us a bit of a better appearance there of that light. It kind of blends it in now, and that looks pretty good. So that's how you do it. It's as simple as that. So you can see there that it's given it more of a cinematic look. The original is quite cold, but it does work. It's got that lovely blue tones to it, but I think the actual final image there with some really nice warm tones in it really suits this, and yeah, it gives you that cinematic golden touch look. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the next video.